Welcome to our hybrid orientation. Brooke Perry, our assistant principal, and I, Jake Booker, your Lake Grove principal, are very excited to share some important information with you about our return to school with the hybrid model. Uh, During this presentation, we will not be able to answer questions as we go along. However, we still want to hear your questions. We're asking you to put those questions in the chat window and we will respond via chat. So please add your thoughts and questions to that chat window and we'll do our best to respond in chat. But also understand that we're capturing those questions for follow-up. We understand that this presentation is going to address a lot of things. It's a very high overview, and some of us will need more time to process and to ask those very important questions. So to accommodate this, Mrs. Perry and I will be offering parent Zoom sessions on Friday morning before and then Friday afternoon after school. So we can have these really important conversations and support families as they make their decisions about moving to face in that hybrid model, or if they choose to remain in the remote learning model. So please remember that the confirmation surveys, which determine placement, are due Friday, February 19th. So they will be due on February 19th. That is this upcoming Friday. So, first of all, we're really excited to be with you, and we're really excited to launch and share the overview of our hybrid transition back to campus with a lot of other schools and districts bringing back scholars in accordance to the health and safety guidance from our state. The Federal Way Public Schools team of administrators and principals and staff are really gearing up to welcome you back to in-person school if you choose to come back hybrid. We know that you've been working very hard over the last year during the pandemic to support your child and keep them safe and healthy. Tonight, we will be able to outline for you how we're committed to a safe and healthy learning environment for your scholar. There are a few important outcomes we have for you tonight. We know that you have received your confirmation of enrollment through the hybrid model that will begin on March 8th for here at Lake Grove kinder and first grade scholars and our ACP scholars. In preparation for this return, we'll be sharing the following information. First, you're going to learn more about our hybrid model, and we'll be providing an overview of what you can expect during in-person instruction, what that day is going to look like. And then we're going to take a deeper dive into the day in the life of a student during in-person instruction and walk you through each step of a student's experience from the moment your child is going out the door, arriving at school, coming into class, and then departing for the day. During each of those steps, we'll outline the safety precautions that are going to be followed. But we'll also share details about the universal safety precautions our staff will be using throughout the day, as well as detailing our systems for responding to illness in the school and for suspected or confirmed cases of COVID-19.
In Federal Way Public Schools, we celebrate the rich language diversity among our students and families. If you need language support, you can contact your child's school and request an interpreter. Also, the district website is translatable in over 100 languages, and this feature can be found on the top right of the website.
First, I want to take a moment and just honor the partnership that we've had strengthened over the last 11 months. In some ways, the pandemic has pulled us closer together as a community, and it certainly strengthened our partnership in support of your scholars. Without you, we could not be making the shifts that have taken place during the last year. Now, as we return to in-person, I want to thank you for your patience and grace as we've worked very diligently to ensure that we're opening with health and safety as a priority. Over the last year, we've been on a once in a lifetime journey. We started in the March of 2020, going into emergency remote instruction. Then in the fall, we relaunched with a much more rigorous and defined model for our instruction across the system. And now we're adding a new model with our remote model as we return to school. It's not a replacement, as there are families that will be choosing to stay completely remote. We are making every effort to maintain continuity. However, in order to support both a fully remote model and a hybrid in-person model, there may need to be changes in your teacher. So if this is the case, we will work with families and students to support a successful transition. These are indeed unique times, and we really appreciate your partnership and grace as we make this transition and support the health and safety of all of our scholars, our staff, and our families. As we prepare to share details of our hybrid plan and shifting into adding the hybrid instructional model, we have surveyed families back in January to determine a preference. And as you may already know, we sent a letter to all the families confirming that selection. As part of this letter, we're providing the opportunity to confirm your selection or indicate a change in preference between models. This confirmation is due by tomorrow, Friday, February 19th. As I shared, tonight's presentation will provide an opportunity for you to hear about our plan for a safe and healthy reopening of schools for in person learning. I will give you another reminder about completing this confirmation at the end of our night. So, right now, let's just dive into some of the details of our in person learning. As many of you might know, we are planning to bring back our kindergarten and first grade scholars at Lake Grove, and that will happen on March 8th. This adjustment was communicated and shared out with families last week. We will be starting our kindergarten and first grade scholars on that date. As well, we'll be starting our ACP scholars in K2. Then we will welcome back our second and third grade scholars on the 22nd, and then we'll welcome back our fourth and fifth grade scholars on the 29th. So there is a staggered reopening. As we shared, we will be using the Family Choice Survey data to assign students to the AM and PM. This will be assigned in order to ensure that classroom sizes are balanced and we're adhering to our safety and health protocols. Because of this, we are not able to accommodate requests for AM or PM. Again, we will not be able to accommodate requests for AM or PM, and we appreciate your understanding of this. Also, it's important to know that although students in grades 2 through 5 will start later in March, we will be communicating your hybrid or fully remote assignments soon, and you will start your new classrooms on March 8th. So, for those second through fifth grade scholars, their switch in schedule and potential changes in teachers will occur on March 8th with everyone else. However, they will not be coming back to school until until their grade bands are called back. Just like our fall plan, the review committee supported the creation of a family guide to support transition to in-person learning with input of families and staff. We've outlined what your child should expect. This guide is full of really important, valuable information, including the day of life of scholar, the hybrid model and in-person schedules, preparing classrooms for safe return, tips for setting up your scholar for success, our health and safety measures, and our COVID-19 response protocols. And we'll be highlighting some of this information in today's orientation. On page 5 of the Family Guide, our hybrid model schedule is explored. Students will attend school 4 days a week, either in the AM or the PM. Again, scholars will attend school 4 days a week, either AM or PM. We'll outline more details on the in-person schedule in the next slide. On the in-person days, for those hybrid scholars, students will still complete independent asynchronous work. That means they will still come to school, but they'll also still be expected to complete work outside of the classroom. There's a change, and students will meet with specialists on Zoom, and it will be live. So there will be no in-person specialists. So no in-person PE, music, library. Those specialist classes will be conducted on Zoom during that asynchronous time. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Wednesday will be a day that students will be completing remote work independently, just like we're doing now. Lake Grove is a late start school. So here's what it is going to look like for us. Please note that we have AM and PM assignments and they will be confirmed following the close of our final parent confirmation survey. Our start time is listed on the chart for both AM and PM sessions. There is a total of 2 hours and 25 minutes of classroom time. Students will be focused on math and ELA instruction with time devoted to social emotional learning. Students will have specialists as well, but that will be in their asynchronous time. And there'll be additional opportunities to engage in other subjects as well during that asynchronous time. What we want to do, though, is we want to remind families that they will need to provide breakfast or lunch prior to coming to school. There will be no meals provided at school. There will be no eating in the building. This is one of our COVID mitigation um, protocols. We will be giving a grab and go snack for scholars to take home. They will not be able to eat the snacks in the building, and they will not be able to eat the snacks on the bus. Families can still, however, pick up meals at the designated sites. So there will still be lunch and breakfast provided for families to serve at home, and you'll just continue to go to those designated sites to pick that up. During this time of remote and in-person learning, we'll be taking attendance every day. So it's very important your child engages in school every single day, both in person and asynchronously. It's very important that our scholars are coming to school during that asynchronous time, that they're engaging in that launch pad for learning. And it's going to be more important, even more important, because this is where they'll be taking specialists. So they will be engaging in PE, music, library, counseling, intervention time with those specialists during asynchronous time, and that will be for all scholars. Um, because learning will continue to be graded this year, your child's attendance is essential for their success at school. Teachers will be responsible for making scholar absences during will be responsible for making and tracking scholar absences during in-person learning times. And then during those asynchronous learning times, attendance is going to be determined based on scholar logging into Launchpad to Learning, just like it has been. Now, if your child is going to be absent, you will need to call the school or use ParentView to enter that absence online. On page 7 of your family guide, you'll see that we've shared that schedule overview, and we're next going to kind of walk you through the day in the life of a scholar. We'll be outlining what your child or children can expect from the beginning of the day. It's important to the end of the day, and it's important to review this with them so they're prepared for a successful and safe return to campus. Along the way, we will outline the important health and safety measures that are in place. In addition to developing our instructional day, we'll also be developing health and safety protocols to ensure a safe learning environment. As we examine our health and safety protocols, you'll see that they're organized by the Scholar Day to support staff understanding and implementation. We'll be providing a higher level overview and then look at those protocols again in the context of a Scholar Day. Our very first protocol happens before your child even leaves home, when you will, as a parents or guardians, submit their health screening attestations. And again, just a reminder, we want to remind families that that we need families to serve breakfast or lunch prior to coming to school. Meals will not be provided in school. We will be providing some grab and go snacks that can be taken home, but those snacks cannot be eaten at school or on the bus. And we'll still be able to have families pick up meals at their designated sites. So on page 7 of the family guide, you'll see that the first step to starting the day will be completing the online health screening. I cannot stress to you how important this is. Every single day, parents or guardians will be receiving a daily email or text message to complete the online attestation of status of symptoms and exposure. That means every single day you need to log in to the site and attest to your child's status of symptoms or possible exposure. Parents and guardians are asked to take temperature and then answer health screening questions around the symptoms and exposures on a daily basis. The symptoms are listed on the slide, and they include a fever, a cough, um, headaches, and other really important symptoms. In the box, you'll see that there are some steps to take. So if there's a yes answer or a temperature above 100.4, the child should not board the bus and should not be brought onto campus. Again, if there's any yes answers in that attestation or there's a temperature above 100.4, a child should not be brought on the campus. It will then be verified at school. So we'll have a list um, by site, and officers, the office staff and administrators will be um, checking that out. Scholars without attestation will be held until we can confirm that in our attestation waiting area. And scholars with a yes answer or a temperature of 100.4 will be isolated until the parents can pick them up. Next, our scholars will be traveling to school and they will be arriving, and then they'll go through a health screening. So let's take a quick look at the protocols and procedures established for getting to school and checking in for the day. Social distancing will have to be maintained at all locations. That means at the bus stop, on the bus itself. With our reduced bus ridership, scholars will sit by themselves, one person per bus bench, and assigned seats, unless they're riding with a sibling. Windows will be opened slightly to increase airflow, and high touch points on the bus will be disinfected between groups of scholars. You can see in this box in the tips that are also found in your family guide, there are ways to support scholar success. It's going to be really important to talk with your child about the importance of wearing a face mask at all times and utilizing their assigned seat. And we can't stress this enough. Your scholar will need to wear their face mask at all times from the moment they get to the bus stop until the moment they come home. There are no mask breaks. We need to have those masks on all day long. On Family Guide, page 8, we're organizing arrival to support students with a safe and healthy entry onto our campus. When the students arrive, they'll be greeted by staff and engaged in a temperature check at the entryway to the school. As a reminder, we'll be checking our list to ensure that families have completed the daily and required online health screening for scholars. When those scholars arrive and make their way to the classroom, we will have floor markers and signage to indicate the walking paths that will help us maintain social distancing at all times. And we'll have supervision for scholars at all times as well. Let's take a look at a map of our school and the properties leading into the school. So I want to share with you the arrival and drop-off plan. Our walkers are going to be coming onto property through the front sidewalks, and then they'll come to that main entry, and those are the two blue arrows at the top. They will have their temperature checked again because they should have been checked at home. We'll check them again when they get to school, and then we'll confirm their online attestation screening is confirmed. If the attestation is not complete, they will be taken to the attestation waiting area and we'll hold them there until a family member can complete the attestation, either on the telephone with staff or it's completed through the app. The bus will come in and it will unload in the bus loop at the front of the building. Scholars will enter through the front doors where they will have their temperatures checked again because they should have been checked at home when they did the initial attestation. And we will then confirm that daily attestation has been complete. If the attestation is not complete, they will be held in the attestation waiting area until a family member can complete the attestation. Our family car drop-off area will be on the side parking lot. Scholars will, again, be coming in through that parking lot, but they will not be allowed to exit the car until they arrive at the designated spot and attestation is confirmed by staff. We will have a staff member there to open the door and confirm that attestation is complete. If the scholar does not have a complete attestation, the driver will be redirected back into the circle so they can get back into the queue where they will have time to complete the attestation. It's really important and crucial that that attestation is completed every day prior to dropping off any scholars. And as a side note, please be aware that the Lake Grove school site is located in an area with poor phone reception. So it's going to be important the attestation be complete before driving to school. We do not have very good reception in that immediate area around the school. So doing that can be a challenge. So again, we recommend that it be done prior to coming to school. To be clear, no scholars will be admitted to class without the confirmed daily attestation. Any scholars who arrive at school with or develop a fever or any of the symptoms associated with COVID-19 during the day will be sent to a special isolation room, and calls will be made to emergency contacts for the scholar to be picked up from school. It's also very important to note that no visitors or family will be allowed inside the building. Again, no visitors or family will be allowed inside the building. This is part of our COVID-19 mitigation process. If a family member arrives to pick up a scholar or to drop off a scholar, they will have to do so in the parking lot. If you are coming to pick up a scholar, we ask that you please call the office, and a staff member will escort that child out to the drop-off area if you're coming to pick up an ill child. After students arrive, they will make their way to the classrooms. And once they're in the classrooms, students will engage in learning in both math, ELA, and they will also have some social emotional learning time. For the next portion, I'm going to walk you through the safety protocols that are in place for entering the classroom, and also the protocols for support that will support safe and healthy learning environment. A note on movement and scholar transitions. When scholars walk to class and also move throughout the building, it's important to note that we will be limiting that to essential transitions, and scholars will be asked to walk in a single file line on the right side of the hallway, and we'll be asking that they maintain social distancing at all times. We'll be spending a lot of time teaching scholars these routines upon return, and we'll be reteaching and supporting scholars throughout the process as we go through the remainder of the year. On page 8 of our family guide, this is really the most important part of our day. This will be that time where scholars are in the classroom and they're engaged in learning. And our teachers are really excited to welcome back students to their first day of in-person learning. And we know that for some of our scholars, it will be the first time stepping foot in our school. In fact, all of our scholars, this will be the first time. This is a brand new building, and it will be really exciting. One of the things that we want to stress, though, is again, and this is going to be something that's especially important for our kindergarten families to hear. We will not be able to allow any visitors or family members inside of our building. So we will be working through a process where we'll be saying goodbye out at the sidewalk. So please make sure that I want to make sure I'm very clear that we cannot have any visitors inside of our building. In the classroom, scholars will continue to wear face coverings at all times. This is crucial. Scholars will have an assigned seat, and spaces will be sanitized and social distancing will be in place. We'll be providing all of the materials that students are going to need. So it's very important that we're very clear about this. Scholars must wear their mask at all times. There will be no mask breaks given throughout the day. For the amount of time that the scholar is at the bus stop, on the bus, in the classroom, and then transitioning home on the bus or walking out to their car, they will have to wear their face coverings at all times as part of our COVID-19 mitigation process. The next two slides we're going to jump into, we're going to go into a little bit more detail. We will be working diligently to make sure that we've set up every classroom in a way that ensures social distancing is in place and is is happening. There will be at least 6 feet between every desk, and none of our materials will be shared among students. We will regularly be disinfecting surfaces, and in between the AM and PM sessions, our custodial staff will be cleaning according to our health guidelines. To support safety and health, we're asking you to please talk to your child about making sure they stay in the um, assigned seats and that they're maintaining their social distancing. We are very excited to announce that scholars are going to be provided school supplies free of charge. We're going to be keeping these items at school, and they're going to be kept separate from other student items, and they'll be bagged up. Items will not be shared between students. We'd like to remind our students with foundations and math workbooks to bring those materials back to school where they will remain. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to take those supplies back. We will label them, place them in bags, and keep them in a safe place so that they are, so we're able to ensure that we're following those proper COVID-19 mitigation steps. And then we'll put them back to the students that they belong to. After a very strong morning or afternoon of learning, scholars are going to be ready to head home for the day. So next up, we're going to share with you our procedures for dismissal and how we're keeping students safe and healthy during this time of the day. Because remember, students will only be coming for half a day, either in the morning or in the afternoon. So we will have staggered dismissal times at the end of the day. We will not be dismissing all of our students at once. We will have bus riders lining up and maintaining social distance and following out a leader out to the bus, and then we'll have a walking route as well. And we'll have students with a parent pickup lined up with their class, 6 feet of social distance, and they'll be making their way to the pickup area. Walkers will also have a designated route, and they'll be maintaining social distancing during our dismissal process, and we'll ensure that supervision is in place across the campus. Now we're going to take a little bit of time to provide some details on our plan for dismissal. As you look at the map, one of the things you'll notice is that some of these arrows are a little bit different. This dismissal plan will still require some social distancing, but there will be no need to perform a screening. Scholars who are walking will be exiting through the front of the building and then out to the road where they'll be crossed at the crossing area. Scholars riding the bus will also exit from the front of the building when the bus arrives. So we'll have a process in place that will help keep the bus riders separate from the walkers. Scholars who are being picked up by car will exit the rear of the building and then walk to the pickup area where they'll be directed to line up. It's very important to note, please do not exit your car to retrieve your child. It will be very important that we maintain social distancing at all times, even while picking up scholars by car. So we will have our car pickup scholars lined up along the pickup area, and we will ask you to drive up, pick up your scholar, but remain in your car. And at this point, we're going to watch a brief video.
All parents must complete a daily required health screening and attestation form each morning for their child. Take your child's temperature and answer the health screening questions. This can be completed online using a mobile device or computer. For more information, visit www.fwps.org/health screening. Make sure the mask is right side up. With clean hands, hold the mask from the straps and lift it to your face, bringing the straps behind your ears. The mask should fit above your nose to just below your chin. If a scholar doesn't comply with wearing a mask, the school principal will call the parent or guardian to come pick up the child. Students will notice Buses will have a reduced number of scholars to allow for social distancing. Windows will be open to allow for air circulation and ventilation. Bus drivers will wear masks and clean and sanitize the bus between routes. Scholars will wear a mask and maintain 6 feet of physical distance when lining up and boarding the bus. Scholars must wear a face covering at all times on the bus. If a scholar does not have a face covering, one will be provided for them. Refusal to wear a mask means scholars will not be able to ride the bus. Scholars will have assigned seats with one per bus bench unless they are from the same household. Scholars will exit the bus at the direction of the driver from front to back and maintain 6 feet of physical distance. School will have staggered arrival based upon how you arrive to school, whether it is by bus, parent drop-off, or walking. If you are driving your child to school, please remain in the vehicle with your child until a staff member motions the child forward to the check-in. School staff will greet scholars and verify online attestation. Scholars will proceed to the designated entrance, maintaining social distancing. Staff will guide scholars through a temperature check. If a scholar doesn't have a completed attestation, we will contact the parent or guardian to verify, and the scholar will remain in a separate waiting area until the attestation is completed. Scholars will proceed to the classroom to wait in a socially distant line outside of the classroom. Scholars will enter the classroom after arrival to engage in learning. Staff and scholars will wear a face covering at all times when at school. Scholars will be assigned to a seat that is spaced with appropriate social distancing. Scholars will have their own materials for daily use, and items will not be shared. Families will limit the number of items coming back and forth from home to school. Items should be left at school each day. Classroom spaces will be cleaned and sanitized according to safety guidelines. In order to help prevent the spread of viruses, scholars are required to wash their hands properly throughout the day. School will have staggered dismissal times to support safety and social distancing. Your school principal will communicate the specific locations for dismissal. Schools will dismiss students based upon their designated transportation mode. Bus riders will line up according to the bus route, maintaining a 6-foot social distance, and walk in designated routes to the bus loading zone. Wait for direction from school staff or bus driver prior to boarding the bus. Scholars being picked up will line up in the classroom, maintain a 6-foot social distance, and walk in designated routes to the parent or guardian pickup zone. Any scholars not picked up in a timely manner will be escorted to a gathering area to wait for parent or guardian arrival. Scholars who walk home will be dismissed to walk in designated routes to the assigned walker exit. Scholars will be expected to walk home immediately at dismissal.
As a reminder, as we shared during the schedule overview, remember that in-person learning at school is only half of the school day. Scholars in the AM session will log into Launchpad to learning when they get home and complete their independent asynchronous work in the afternoon. They will be meeting with their specialist live on Zoom. The same is true for our PM scholars, except they will log in the morning before coming to in-person school. Remember, this applies to our um, to our hybrid scholars who are returning to face-to-face. All of our health and safety protocols have been developed to be aligned with guidance from the Department of Health. All staff, scholars, and families in Federal Way Public Schools will follow basic universal precautions to maintain health and safety. Signs will be placed throughout the building to support social distancing and reinforce safety protocols. I'm going to next provide an overview of those protocols. Found on page 11 of the Family Guide, there are a few key safety precautions we want to emphasize for you and your child. These are the 4 key universal safety precautions, as we shared earlier. And you will be required to complete a daily online health screening with questions. You'll also need to take your child's temperature, and we will also take the child's temperature on arrival at school. We will be emphasizing social distancing throughout the day. We'll be maintaining 6 feet of physical space among others on the bus, at arrival, in the classroom, during transitions, and etc. And finally, all students and staff are required to wear masks throughout the school day. We appreciate uh, you working with your child to support the success in this area. This is from from page 20 of the Family Guide. This slide will be talking a little bit more about these universal precautions. So, face coverings and personal protective equipment. Scholars and staff will be required to wear masks at all times, and we will be following the state guidance around that. So, face coverings, that means a mask, will be worn at all times. Social distancing. This is a key precaution, and we'll be using that throughout the day. There will be an expectation that we are maintaining that 6 feet of separation. We'll have signs to support this, and we'll be working to reinforce that social distancing. Hand washing. Hand washing and hand sanitizing will happen throughout the day when students arrive, before they leave, and when they're using the restroom. We know students will need to use the restroom, so we'll have signage and markers outside to help us maintain our social distancing. Drinking fountains will remain open as long as the guidance allows for that, but we do recommend scholars bring a water bottle. From page 12 and 13 of the Family Guide, we have designated entrance and exits. We have talked a lot about this when reviewing the arrival and dismissal, but we want to reemphasize the important part of this precaution. We are also following all the cleaning procedures as outlined by the Department of Health and state guidelines. High touch points will be cleaned and disinfected frequently, and classrooms will be disinfected between AM and PM. In order to support the safety and health of all of our staff and scholars, we will not be permitting visitors to campus. That means if parents need to drop off an essential item, please call the school from the car, and we can assist you with getting those items to your child. Again, very important, we will not be permitting any visitors inside the building. Lastly, we want to share that Federal Way Public Schools will be using high quality air filters, and we've increased the fresh air room in all of our classrooms, and very excited to say that Lake Grove and this brand new building has state-of-the-art HVAC system, and we will have very fresh, clean air being brought into our classrooms. This is from page 13 of our Family Guide. We want to take a moment to detail some of the universal precautions that we have to support a safe and healthy bus ride to and from school. We shared some of those details in Day of a Life, outlining how scholars will be seated and those expectations for social distancing, and that staff and scholars, we expect they will be wearing masks. We'll also be sharing here that disinfecting and cleaning procedures and will be taking place every evening. Ventilation will be ensured through the opening of roof hatches and keeping those windows cracked open. As we are preparing for hybrid, here are a few examples of some of the school signage that will be placed to reinforce health and safety expectations, uh, including student-friendly social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing, identifying entrances and exits, and appropriate signage for that. And we've walked through a lot. Um, of our protocols and reference signage and wanted just to give you a chance to see what some of these signs would look like. They will be used throughout the building and in our classrooms. This is from page 10 of our family guide. We know and we recognize that you are essential partners as we work together to make this transition. And it's going to be really normal for your children to have a variety of feelings as they approach in-person learning, if that is the modality that you've chosen. And we're here to support you and want to remind you to keep that dialogue open with your child and continue to support your child. If you have any questions about supporting your child, please don't hesitate to reach out to your child's teacher, our counselor, Mary Finney Allen, or myself, or Brooke Perry, our assistant principal. This is from page 11. Now that we've shared our schedule and some of our universal precautions, we want to share how we're responding to illness in the school, whether it's a suspected case on campus or situations when there's a confirmed case. And walking you through our protocols and systems, I want to emphasize that we are making certain that scholar privacy is respected and that scholars should never be ashamed of being ill or sick for any reason. Here's an overview of our response protocol, and this is from page 14. So we'll have some very specific systems for addressing COVID-19 cases or suspected cases. This system is in alignment to the protocols and guidelines that are outlined for all schools by the state guidelines. We have a district-led team that develops a comprehensive plan for response. Then at the school site, there's a COVID-19 response coordinator. That would be me. And I'll be working with our district office to coordinate any next steps and responses if required. It's going to be important to note that I am part of a larger team that will be working together to monitor the health and safety of all of our students. Next, I'm going to outline what happens in case there is a suspected case. If a student or a staff member shows symptoms during the day, if a scholar gets ill during the school day, we will escort them to the designated area that is separate from other students. We will reach out to the parent and call the parent and guardian to pick up the child. We will ask that you contact your healthcare provider and then follow back up with the school. If needed, we will be ready to initiate contact tracing if necessary for a confirmed case. However, if a child does not have COVID-19 and is simply ill, we will be following the guidelines and have students stay home until they are cleared to return. This is from page 14. Lastly, we want to share how we respond to positive cases of COVID-19. In that very first column, we share our response if we learn that a scholar was exposed to another person, like a family member, that was positive for COVID-19. If this is the case, we will encourage you to have your child tested. Whether the child is positive or not, the state guidance tells us that that child will have to stay home for 14 days since the last contact with the person who was positive. In some instances, we may get confirmation from a student or a staff member that they've received a positive test for COVID-19. If that happens, the principal, as the COVID-19 site coordinator, will determine if there were any close contacts to the students or staff members that were positive, and if they were on campus or if they were in close contact. In the school, close contact is defined as being within 6 feet of a person with COVID-19 for a combined total of 15 minutes or more within a 24-hour period. Students can return when at least 10 days have passed since the start of symptoms or a positive test, and then 24 hours after they've been fever-free. So 24 hours after they're fever-free, in addition to that 10 days after a positive test or symptoms. If we have a confirmed case, then the COVID-19 district team will determine what communication is required. And we will always follow the guidance from the Department of Health on this. If needed, we will privately contact any close contacts. Due to federal health laws like HIPAA, specific details related to COVID-19 cases, including confirmed cases, may or may not be shared with the larger staff or school community and will depend upon the guidance that we receive from the Department of Health. I really want to thank you all for attending today and watching this video and learning more about our return to campus and our hybrid learning model. And it will be beginning soon. So as I stated at the start, we cannot do this work without you. And we're grateful for your partnership, and we are looking forward to continuing that throughout the year. Thank you for joining us.